in this little bubble, everyone thinks it matters, right? There's like this bubble in the industry, and it's like such a small bubble of people, and they think that all this shit matters, and it doesn't. Like nobody gives a fuck about it, like except them, you know? And nobody in the bubble really gives a fuck what anybody else is doing. They're all worried about themselves.
From the belly of Hollywood to joy and happiness. Ooh, we've got a good episode for you today. I sit down with a new friend, a new amigo, a guy I highly respect and admire, Eli Wehbe, when it comes to someone being able to literally transform himself. So I want to ask you, do you want to be able to change yourself, to change your life, to go from where you are to a life that you really love living, for you to be a person that you love being day in, day out? That's something that highly fascinates me, the identity that we have at the end of the day and how we show up each and every day and how malleable that actually is as well. I think this is completely fascinating. And that's why in this episode, we really delve into how has Eli gone from someone that was top of the ranks when it comes to the Hollywood world that you'll see as we peel back in this episode to now living a completely different life. And the guy that sits in front of me in this conversation is a loving, a powerful and extremely humble, incredible human being that I love being able to call a mate right now, and I only want to be able to call him a mate forever. And I want you to be able to learn his story, and because I know you're going to be able to take away so much from this episode. So if you're joining us on the podcast right now, please make sure to head on over to the Chris Dufey YouTube channel so you can watch this episode unfold on camera, because this is shot remarkably in LA. And also, if you are going to share this out on social, because I'd love for you to share this out on social, please tag myself and Eli as well, because I would love to know what you're going to take away from this episode, and I would love to be able to personally say thank you for you joining us in this episode.
I really commend you. This is really good. Like, and I'm not blowing smoke up your ass. I was genuinely like, fuck,
I'm glad you liked it, man.
I'm into the story. Like, it's rare to be able to pick up a book of this nature and have it like the slippery slide it is, where you just keep going. Yeah. Like you want to keep reading and going through it. And it's also what I really appreciate about it is like you're sharing so much of the real stuff, and it's not like you're trying to flex, where I feel like so many people are trying to do. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Where they're trying to do things. Like I really appreciated the part where like,
I didn't even want to add photos to the fucking
book. I was going to say.
We talked about
when
that.
You're ripping about that.
I was like, because when I wrote the book, I was like, I don't want to talk about any of that shit, you know? But at the end of the day, like now that I look at it, it's almost like it's a way to reel people in and get that, like, you know, there's a way greater gift coming out of that book, you know, and people are thinking it's like this TMZ, like tell all type of thing, but I don't do that. I fucking kind of shit on myself. Yeah. And when I went into that, I was like, I didn't want to talk about any celebrities. I didn't talk about this and that. And people were like, that was part of your fucking life, dude. Like, you got to put that shit in there. It's going to reel people in. I definitely could have done more, but I'm happy with the way that I did it. And you know, that's my fucking first book. And
I was going to ask, what's the next one coming?
It'll be called Mask Off for sure. Yeah, that's for sure. Okay,
so what was your intention when you wanted to write this book?
Change one life, bro. That was it. If I could change one fucking life, then, you know, my job was done, and that was the end of it for me. And like, I wanted, like, in my head, I was thinking of like me at fucking 18 picking up this book and being like, fuck this shit. Like, this is not the way to go. Although I don't take back any of that life, like, you know, it put me to where I was at today, and it made me who I was today. But I think everybody in, like, you know, their teenage years as a boy, like, has like this Hollywood dream in their head, you know, the cars, the money, the girls, like this and that. And then I just kind of I lived it at the top of the food chain, and I wanted people, like, I knew people would listen to me with what I had to say. It wasn't like, well, fuck this guy. Who is he? Like, what did he do? You know? But, you know, now, yeah, it's kind of where I was at when I wrote it.
Okay. There's so many threads I want to pull from this conversation, dude. One of them was I found myself when listening to the book, I was just like, Eli, get the fuck away from those people. Like, it was just, for me,
like you felt like you're inside it,
Yeah, I was the power and potency of who we surround ourselves with continues to become so apparent to me. And then reading this book, I was like, oh my God, like, this is really interesting. Like, you talk very early on in the book how you would change a group of friends and therefore you would change and you kind of like went full skater. Do you know what I mean? Like you want all the gear, you want to be able to do like, that's who you're showing up right now. When it comes to how you're surrounding yourself with who you are in your environment today, how are you consciously actually doing that? Because so much of this book, I felt like there was the Eli that wasn't consciously choosing who he was surrounding himself with and what those consequences would turn out to be.
Yeah, now I'm just super picky with the environment I'm hanging around with, and finding a whole new, it wasn't even about finding a whole new tribe. It was just kind of coming on its own, like I was just continuing to live my truth, and and those people were just kind of gravitating towards me. Once I just started living my truth and being who I always was, instead of taking the mask off, then all those people started gravitating towards me.
I think especially, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I've had even a couple of interviews today where they were talking about the life in LA specifically.
Yeah.
Now, like, you're a dude that's clearly, as I said, been at the top of the food chain of this. Like, you worked your way up from wanting to be a promoter, getting messed around with a dude at the very start that said he could deliver, and you having to be like, all right, I'm going to work my way through it.
Yeah.
I think us Australians use the phrase like the gift of the gab. Do you know what I mean? Where like you can talk your way to the situation that you need to. How do you navigate those murky waters to get what you want and still be an ethical, moral person?
In today's world?
Yeah.
I haven't been really running into these fucking idiots anymore, I'm not really dealing with people like that anymore. I am working on some new projects that's kind of dipping into my old life, but not part of my old life, but they're crossing paths, and I am kind of dealing with some of these people, but it's things I already know how to deal with. You know what I'm saying? Right off the break, I'm like, yeah, this person's going to be full of shit, like right off the start, so I just know now. Like back then, I was naive and gullible, so I couldn't see it. Now I got a radar in the first 30 seconds of talking to someone where I'm like, all right, this person's full of shit or they're not. But in most cases now, like I'm not needing to put myself in any kind of environments where I'm having to deal with those type of people anymore, And it always kind of runs in like the same parallel of the type of like work you're trying to do. Like when I'm doing things like, things like this, a podcast and stuff like that, I'm not running into these people. But if I was going to go back and try to do something in the bar life or the, even the hospitality industry, you start dealing with these people. There's just so much ego involved. So everyone's always bullshitting and lying to get to where they need to go.
All right, we've got to go back to the main point. I want to go back. When it comes to not being driven by money, knowing that you previously were driven, especially when it comes to fame, power, success, what's that message that you could go back to, whether it's you at 18 or someone else at 18? Like, what's that message that you want to say to them?
It's the same thing that like most people say, man, that like the main thing is like if you have no purpose to your goal, then you're just going to go right down a black hole. And whether that's your goal has to do with a big house or a big car or a nice car or this and that, if there's no purpose to it, man, like get the fuck out of it. There's got to be a purpose.
I think for like when I reflect upon that, it's my parents were both 17 when they had me, and I grew up. The story I tell myself is I grew up not having money. Do you mean like we were not like, I wouldn't call us poor by any means, but it's like I never had money. And I think one of the greatest gifts that my parents gave me is they never gave me money as well. But I know for sure that I was driven by wanting to be able to, for me, like I've run businesses since I was 18. So since then it was like wanting to create successful businesses so that I could have money, so that I could have freedom, so that I could feel worthy. Yeah. And that was like, that was the thing that I had suffered with, is like just not feeling worthy of this and always having to achieve more. So when it comes to how much success is enough, how do you think about that?
Like, how do I measure it in a sense? I guess.
How do you measure success for yourself, if you do, or how do you even define that term for you?
I guess success for me is tied to happiness, and my happiness is tied to, kind of being in service for others now. And I think like that's where, when everything kind of went down with everything that I was doing, I was realizing that even when I was in nightlife and I was posting these runs and my diet and stuff like that, I was realizing the things that had nothing to do with money was what was attracting everybody to me. Nobody gave a fuck about like what celebrity I was at or what club I was running or, you know, none of that stuff. In this little bubble, everyone thinks it matters, right? There's like this bubble in the industry, and it's like such a small bubble of people, and they think that all this shit matters, and it doesn't. Like nobody gives a fuck about it, like except them, you know? And nobody in the bubble really gives a fuck what anybody else is doing. They're all worried about themselves. It's just, it's such a mind fuck. It's crazy to me, but yeah, I just think the success now is tied to just doing what I love to do now and being able to, you know, help other people and inspire and motivate them. That's where it's at for me. Like I'm telling you, man, getting those messages every fucking day of like, you changed my life, or I got into running because of you, or I lost this much weight because of you. I fixed my relationship because of you. I was gonna kill myself, and then I read your book, and like I fixed my whole life around. Like I mean, I get gnarly messages, man, and I'm just like, so fucking dope. And people are so open. They talk to me as if they know me, you know? But that's what happens. It's like when we used to watch reality TV shows when we were a kid, or a movie, like we think we know these people, and these people like are like, I don't fucking, you know, I don't know you or whatever, but I love it. Like I love getting those messages, man. And like, I love just being able to help and motivate people. And what's crazy is the people that I feel like enjoyed the book the most are the people that are still in the nightlife game.
Wow.
And it's crazy because I thought they would be the ones that would like dislike what I was saying, but it was so honest and raw and real that they were like, fuck, he's right about everything he's talking about. Wow. Yeah. I had like all the other like nightlife hospitality owners hitting me up, everybody, like everyone in the nightlife was just like, yo, your book was fucking good. And some of them they would never say anything to me, and then I'll run into them on the street and they're like, yo, your book was fucking phenomenal. I just didn't tell you about it. But, and I'm like, dude, it's just so dope. It actually hits harder for me when it comes from the people from the industry, where I'm like, damn, that one's fucking dope, you know?
That's really cool. Yeah. That's really cool. Now, I picked up what I took from, I forget which chapter it was in, but when you had started getting into the running, and then you started posting and sharing about what it is that you were doing, and then you had so many people in the industry be like, oh my God, that's amazing. Like totally hitting you up and being like, oh, I could never do that. I'm so inspired that you're doing that. For me, that felt like a kind of tipping point for you, where it was a case of like, oh my God, like this is now you're carving your own path. Like there was you, Jameen, kind of climbing the ladder of success in the industry. Yeah. And then there was this case of like, oh, like I'm going to do it my way now. Was that the case?
It kind of just rolled into that. And I was just always thinking like fuck, I could never leave the nightlife because like what the fuck, what am I gonna do, be a runner? You know what I'm saying? Like that's what was in my head. And then like now I'm like, fuck the nightlife. I'm like, this shit's so dope. And I'm like, you know what I'm saying? And like I feel like this is who I always was. You know, the mask was always on and it was never who I was. And I think like once all this happened and you know, we all went through like, you know, everyone getting locked in their fucking houses and this and that, I was just like, fuck, I don't gotta fucking grab this mask on and put it on anymore. Like I can just go fucking got rid of all my, like pretty much all my materialistic items and like just felt like me again. I was just like, all this shit never mattered to me. The cars, the clubs, like nothing, man. It was all a show. You know, I never really loved it. I was miserable out every single night. You know, people that knew me knew, because they'd be like, damn, this motherfucker just jets out the door. This motherfucker just jets out the door the second he can, you know? Yeah. So yeah, it's kind of where that's at.
Can we talk about identity? Especially because like you named the book Mask. I feel like we always have a mask on. Yeah. We obviously can choose. Obviously the idea is we want the awareness to be able to know what mask we're wearing. And then I think this is where I definitely learned from like Buddhist philosophies. Like we want awareness. We meditate because we want awareness for one reason, but we want awareness so that we can investigate what's going on to see if there's truth and usefulness from it. How do you think you really were able to take that mask off from that life into the dude I get to sit down with today?
Well, I will say if you were close with me, you would have been able to see the mask off, you know, like anybody that I was dating for a very long time, you know, because my full name's Elias. So they're like, you know, they would always call me Elias, and they're like, Eli is like your identity name for when you're out there. And like, you know, my ex-girlfriend used to always be like, you have a beautiful soul. Like, you know, be very careful with who you share this with. But people didn't know, they didn't know that me. They just saw me as a nightclub guy with the cars, the girls, the money, and just running around, running amok in the city, you know? But you know, I think like it was super simple. Like after I knew I wanted nothing to do with that industry. I was like, fuck it, I'm just be who I am. Cause I was always very outspoken. I always kind of said what I wanted to say. That was one thing that was about me. Like I have, you know, just this mouth got me very far in life and also got me in a lot of fucking trouble. But, you know, I just keep it 100 with people, man. And, you know, some people, they don't like it. But you know what? They may not like it at the start, but they'll respect it in the long run. Because at the end of the day, I'm just keeping it 100 with them. And yeah, I don't think that it wasn't too tough to take it off. I think it was just like the second I knew I didn't have to be out anymore, I was like, fuck it, I can be me, you know? And that's just kind of, the transition wasn't that crazy for me. But again, like I said, like if you knew me personally, you knew the real Elias, you know?
Okay, that's really cool. And if someone's struggling to take their mask off now, they're listening to us, they're watching us, they know that there's a mask on, that it's a bit of a facade and it's not who they truly want to be. What do you think are the actual steps for us to be able to be like, all right, fuck this, I need to put something else on?
I think the first step is not give a fuck what people think, you know, because at the end of the day, that's why they're wearing it, you know, and I was victim to that for the longest time. I was just so worried about what people were writing me on the internet or what this person was, people that I've never even met, you know, and it's like, I could tell you all day to like, just take off your fucking mask and live your truth, but like, it's not that easy. But I think people are stuck in this pattern or routine where they're just used to this life they always had, and it includes the mask. You know what I'm saying? That's like you coming up to me in 2017 or 16 telling me like, take off your mask and leave the nightlife if you don't fucking like it. I'm like, fuck you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, what the fuck am I gonna do? I'm scared, you know? But I think to finally just make that leap forward is just not give a fuck what people think and do what makes you happy. And like, you know, I agree. I agree on like, if you got to go a little fucking broke to do it and become happy, then there's, you know, a bigger picture at the end of that road, you know? Like, I think like you just got to take the fucking risk. I took a fucking risk, you know, I left it all. I can go back. It's not that I can't go back. I can easily go back to that world, you know?
I love that you say that, because for me, and I think this is actually really interesting how this is kind of like panned down a little bit. So I'm going to kind of like share a bit of the deep emotional side. Is back in 2013, I left Sydney, moved to Dubai to start a new business there. My wife was 6 months pregnant and I had 3 months to move to Dubai, start the new business up, fly back in time. Lauren gave birth to our eldest, Arlo, and then moved to Dubai, start doing as a new family there. And I burned all my ships previously to it. Like, I sold my car, I gave all my clients away, sold our house, like did everything so that I could make that move. I did that again when we moved from Dubai to Bali. I burnt my ships, started this new thing. And it was interesting because recently I felt like I've been going through a really big shift and being like, okay, like I want to change the work that I want to do. I want to change like everything. Literally, I've questioned everything in my entire bloody life. And I said to a close friend, like, oh, like, do I need to like burn the ships to do this next thing? And they were like, no, that was the old Chris. Like, Christopher today doesn't have to do that because you're smarter, wiser, you've done things better, blah, blah, blah. When it comes to like the labels that we put upon ourselves, Eli, like who we're calling ourselves at the end of the day, like putting words to what that mask is, I guess is one way to look at it. How do we do that and not screw ourselves over?
I mean, you know, we all get in our own head sometimes, and it's tricky, man. And I think like at the end of the day, sometimes we got to fall back into old patterns to remember why we move forward anyway, you know? And I think like with whatever it is that you are doing, I think sometimes it's good to kind of like step back into old environments and then be like, fuck, this is why I fucking left this. This is why. And I'll do it sometimes. I'll step out, I'll go to a birthday and I'll just be like, fuck, thank God I'm not doing this anymore, you know? And I'm like, sometimes I need to do those things, because sometimes I'll get in my own head and be like, fuck it, I could come back, or I could do this, or I could do that. And I'm sure you do the same thing. And like, but you're like, no, wait, I fucking changed for a reason. I don't want to be, I don't want to do this. I think some of it's ego, you know what I'm saying? It's a little bit of the ego. To like chapter 4, ego is not your amigo, you know? And it really isn't, man. The ego will fucking drive you to the ground, man. It really will. And again, like I think just falling back sometimes into like either in some old toxic environments and just remembering why you chose to move forward is just like, there's a beauty in that to me. Like being able to step back. I see everybody out. I have no judgment or opinion on anybody, like, you know, cause I did that shit for 15 fucking years, you know, and I'm just like, fuck, this feels good being out of this shit, man. Like just out of that hole. It's nice.
I take inspiration from that. I really appreciate you sharing that, dude. Because that's something that I think we all need to hear often. And do you mean consistently is to be able to be like, oh, like I'm making this change for a reason. And like I asked the last question was like, how do we not screw ourselves over? But there's also an element of just like life is, it's going to pan out the way it's going to pan out.
100%.
At the end of the day. There's only so much we can actually control as well. So we should try and make the most of it and come to peace with everything else that comes out from it as well.
Yeah.
One thing I picked up as I was going through this, buddy, was your ability for forgiveness. I think you've got like, I don't know if it was just like me. I don't know. But
I could have really fucking went in on some people in this book. And like, you know, what's funny is, that guy Alex in the book, I ran into him at Nobu Malibu, and he wouldn't look at me, and his friend came up to me and he was like, hey, he's sorry for everything that he did to you, this and that. And I just looked at him and I was like, I tell him I wish him the best, man. Like I'm in like the best place in my life right now. And like, and I know it drove him fucking nuts, you know, like, cause anyone else would have fucking strangled him and threw him in the ocean. You know what I'm saying? Like that's like exactly what would have happened. But there was no anger from it. And you know what it was? It's that like, I knew that if I hadn't gone through what I had went through, I'd still be out fucking blowing rails, drinking, and like, you know, running the next hotel or running, you know, I had all these plans lined up, and in that time I was working on a hotel project, and I had a venue on the top, and then I was going to do like a vegan restaurant on the roof and all this and that. And then I brought one of my best friends on with me to do it with me, and I was just like, fuck, me and you are going to run the best fucking club out here, and we're going to be sucked in this shit again. And then he's like, yeah, but we're going to have like the rooftop with like you were going to do like the yoga sessions. And then I'm like, yeah, but it's not going to fucking, we can't fucking just do lines of blow one night and fucking stay up for 2 fucking days and then go do fucking yoga.
We're passing out in the morning.
Yeah, it's like, and this is what a lot of the city does. And they like, oh my God, I'm detoxing this and that. And I'm like, or they say they've been sober, and I'm like, sober from what? Like they'll be like, oh, I've been sober for 2 years, but they still smoke weed every day. Or they still do this every day. I'm like, dude, that's not sober. You know what I'm saying? Like these guys are all in their own delusional realities every single day. But
do you call that spiritual bypassing?
Like what I just explained?
Yeah.
I don't know if I call it spiritual bypassing. I think they're just like literally, they're picking and choosing like what they think sober is, or like, you know what it's just to make themselves feel better at the end of the day, right? Yeah. Like I still think if you need a substance to operate, like you're not sober, right? Like no matter what it is. That's why I haven't even gotten into like, bro, I went through the whole fucking alphabet of drugs and I fucking abused every one of them. So it's like, you know, like I'm not into like plant medicine or nothing. Like I'm not against any of it. I just think I don't want to alter my body at all now. Yeah. And I've been like 2+ years clean completely. Amazing. Like nothing, you know, and like every time people are like, oh, you wouldn't still do mushrooms, stuff like that. The deal I made with myself was to not to ever do hard alcohol or hard drugs ever again. So that wasn't including like psychedelics or wine in a sense. What the fuck do I need it for? I just don't need it. Like there's just no point in it. And I used to think like, it's funny, like I used to just think all that shit was so cool. I'd be like, yo, how do people like go out and like sober? Like what fucking losers? I used to think they were fucking losers for like being sober where we were at. And now I'm like, what the fuck was wrong with me? You know, that's when you do that.
I respect so much you saying that. Like I respect so much for you to be like, oh, that dude I was before, not the best.
Yeah.
And so I haven't drank alcohol in nearly 10 years now because I hit a point.
10 years on? Yeah. Did you have an issue before?
No, I wouldn't say that I had an issue. If I drank, I could drink heavily, and especially from Australian drinking culture, it's very like just like binge drinking as well. But I just hit a point. It was actually when I moved to Dubai, to be perfectly honest. The last time I ever drank was actually at the Dubai World Cup, which is like a famous horse race that they have there. And I remember just after just being like, I just don't want this anymore. Like, and it was just been a non-option for me. Now, within saying that, I do want to be truthful. I have done my fair share of psychedelics and still do.
Yeah.
And I love what you just mirrored back to me just then and being like, why am I really doing it? Do you know what I mean? Like, and I've always wanted to be very cautious with this, to be like, not wanting to be escapist with it, like wanting to do it for an improvement and for a clear set intention. I appreciate you bringing that up.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people, whether they're psychedelics or drugs, it's an escape or filling a void or whatever it is, or they're trying to attain something from taking the substances. But I don't give a fuck what anybody does, man. This is just like my outlook on it. And like, like I said, I've done it all. And like, I was the fucking worst, I used to just be up for fucking 3 days, 4 days straight and like still operate the fucking club. And like, I was just fucking crazy. I was bizarre. I don't know. I don't know how the fuck I survived, but we're fucking here.
Well, I'm glad you did. Yeah. I'm very glad you did.
We wouldn't be here,
What energizes you or expands you the most right now?
I think the ability to just kind of like stick to my daily discipline. And I think like the magic, the motivation, the inspiration is found in the work everyone's avoiding, like that discipline is like where, I get super creative. Like today I got up and I was like, fuck that. I'm not running today. And then I was like, fuck, you sound like a bitch. And I was getting the fucking treadmill and then I was like, all right, cool. I'll do like 5 and I'm like, nope, 20 or nothing. And then I was like 10. I was like, fuck, I'm in a lot of pain today. I'm like, all right, 15. And I was like, nope, 20 or nothing. And I just finished it. And like, I had all these things going on in my mind this morning, dealing with a bunch of bullshit with some event and some work stuff. And then got off that fucking treadmill. I tell you what, I don't give 3 fucks about what I was fucking worried about for that run. And like, there's just something about, it's just some magic in that daily discipline, man, or that voluntary suffering. I love it, man.
How do you help someone cultivate their own daily
discipline? I think they need to find something that they like to do but don't like to do. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't love to run, I like love it like when I'm fucking getting towards the end of it. That's why we call it type 2 fun. But I think people need to find something that, some sort of practice or some sort of hobby that they like to do, but like that's kind of difficult.
Yeah.
And, set a goal. It's kind of like, Andy Frisella's like 75 hard. It's not like, it's all basic. It's all basic shit to do. You read a little bit every day, you do this every day, but like you stick to it. And I think as long as people can people need like a plan. I don't operate like that. I don't ever listen to what anybody does. I've never followed a plan. I've never had like a coach for running or anything like that. I've been thinking about it lately, but I think like majority of people need something on paper to follow. And then once they can get past this like 3-week hump, then they're good. I think the 3 weeks is like the breaker point for me, at least, like where I'm like, I guess with anything, right? Because like I don't even really have cheat meals until like Sunday. So if I eat bread, if I continually eat bread for a fucking week, then I'm gonna crave that shit for a week, or like for the next 3 weeks. You know what I'm saying? So like, I think once people get past this 3-week breaker, they can kind of unlock that special part in their brain where they're like, fuck it, I can do anything now.
I think I like to believe, I'd be interested to know what you think. Like the way you do one thing is the way you do everything.
I believe that like people are always like, why do you run so much? Like you're not even a race coming up, or like you're like, you just train to train. I go, yeah, because that discipline that I do every single day reflects to everything I do with my life. Like literally, like when I'm like, fuck, once I get the run done, I'm like, fuck it, now I got to do all this other shit. Like the runs, like the first thing on my mind, like my day does not feel complete until that fucking run's done. Like I feel like a fucking loser if that runs like that. and nobody cares about it, other than me. Like I'm the one that cares about the most. But you'd be surprised, like people pay attention to how much I run, and like I get so many messages about that, because they're like, anyone that like runs, they're like, fuck, this is a fucking grind. Like you got to force yourself to just get up and do that shit every other day, or even for a year I did it every fucking day. So yeah, man, having that daily discipline, and I preach this shit all the time, man, is just like the foundation of being able to be successful in life. Like you have to have a discipline. Otherwise, like, honestly, like if I started fucking off my runs, I'd fuck off with everything else in my life. I know I would. Yeah. And I think like what you said earlier, like I think like how you do one thing is how you kind of do everything. And like for the most part, I think it's like 99.9% accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate you saying that, because I remember it wasn't like, someone came up to me in the gym and just like, oh my God, like I want your body. I want to be in your shape. Like, what do I do? And I was just like, start with not missing a workout for 10 years. Just do that. Don't miss a workout for 10 years.
10 years.
Come back to me. Yeah.
All right. All right, I'm out of here. All right, I'm out of here. I'm out of here.
But I think that's the stuff people don't want to hear, but they need to hear at the end of the day. Like, and so for me, look, okay, so I was really overweight as a kid. And then as a teenager, as a late teenager at 18, I started losing some weight. I was always athletic, but it was the weight that held me back. I had a real eating disorder. Then when I lost a lot of weight, that's what actually spurred me on to become a personal trainer. And then for me, I wanted to be able to help people go through that transformation. And it was interesting because I was driven so much. I competed as a fitness model in London, Denmark, and Australia. And that was very much me, ego driven, wanting to be in the best shape possible. Do you know what I mean? It was like absolutely putting everything, my entire life to it. I look back to what I did and I hate myself for what I had to do to myself for that. And then now today, it's like, I do it because like I'm going to train after this, and I'm going to do it because I know it's the story that I'm telling myself about myself. And that's the thing I don't want to give up on, because if I wake up one day and I don't do the thing that I say that I want to do, I'm really scared as to what that slippery slide is after.
Yeah.
Do you feel the same with that with the running?
100%. And I think like I don't give a fuck if you go work out. You're doing the shit for you. And like most people don't get that. Like there's nobody else to impress. It's just for you and you and you, and that's it. Like I could give 3 fucks if you go work out after this. You know what I'm saying? But in your mind, you're doing this shit for you. Yeah. And like I was crazy about the way I used to look too for the longest time. And now I'm just like, fuck it. If I'm in fucking shape to go run a fucking 100 miler, then I'm fucking good.
You're good.
You know? Yeah,
you're
I'm
good, dude.
You know, and I just think that I think most people just need to understand that like there's no one to compete with. Like this is just for themselves. It's you versus you. Like there's just your only competition should be you. And like we've got like, you know, you've heard the saying before a million fucking times, but it's so true. Like I get up and I run for myself, and then I'm like, fuck it. The only reason why I post my runs on there, because I know it motivates other people to go run. Because when I, like the days that I'm off and I see someone running, I'm like, fuck that cat, I'm going to go run tomorrow. You know, like that's just how I operate in my head. And they don't know they're inspiring me, but I know I'm doing this for fucking thousands of people, you know? And I don't even notice it until like I get 1 or 2 messages and I'm like, yep. I was like, thank you for this message. Now I'm going to go out and fucking do extra work today, you know? And it's like those fucking people just writing those messages to me, and like, I'm usually not the type of person to reach out to somebody and say something like that, but I get tons of them. But it's fucking awesome. Like I love when people reach out, and it literally pushes me to keep going, you know? And like I'm gonna keep going regardless, but that gives me that extra icing on the cake where I'm like, fuck yeah, well, I'm doing 25 today instead of fucking 20.
It's really cool.
You know?
It's really cool.
Yeah.
Okay. I really want to know, how do you define success for yourself today?
Yeah, I think it just kind of goes back to the happiness and being in service for others, man. That's where it's at for me. That's just no amount of money, no amount of cars, none of that. None of that's it's all gonna be a temporary satisfaction. You know what I'm saying? The real happiness lies within, and to be happy within, you need to have a purpose, and whatever that greater purpose is. For me, it's being able to inspire, motivate, and just keep being in service. And I'll say it over and over again, because that's like literally what I'm about, man. And it was always in me though, man. Like I'm telling you, like when I used to see like the impact that I was having, even on like the celebrity world and the influencer world, and when I was still in the nightlife, I was like, fuck, this is what hits home for me. You know what I'm saying? Like this, like I feel it in my fucking heart. Like, you know, like it's literally what hits home for me. But yeah, I think that would be the define of success for me at this point in my life. I've had the whole other life, and I'll tell you what, I didn't feel fucking successful at all.
Wow.
You know?
I find it really interesting, and the reason why I asked this question to you and many others with your perspective is because it's like, I know I went through that. Do you mean I thought success was money and homes and all that stuff, and thankfully I don't believe that anymore, but it's like a gnosis. It's like a GN knowing, gnosis in myself, feeling knowing, rather than kind of like intellectually KN knowing of it as well. And I'm wanting to try and find like if we could like distill down on what the essence is so that we could help let's say help the previous me, right? That was stuck in that world, that thought, oh my God, like power, money, fame, that's the stuff that we should be striving for. Like, I think there was some crazy statistic of like people these days, one of their main ambitions and goals is to be famous. It's like to be rich and famous.
I was like that as a kid.
Yeah.
But I didn't know what for. I wanted people to look up to me, but I had no fucking purpose to it, right? Like I was like, oh, I want to be on like, I never talked about this. I always wanted to be on like Real World versus Road Rules. You remember that show on MTV?
No, I don't.
It was like a competition show, but you had to be on the reality show where it's like a group of people, they all lived in a house and like they kind of just filmed you. But then once you're either on the Real World or the Road Rules, they do like the show where they compete against each other, and it was all like fucking like hard shit. Like it was all like athletic stuff. I was like, I want to go on that show and like be known off there. And like, I don't know why I wanted to, but like that's what I wanted when I was a fucking kid. I had no purpose to it. And like when I got into the nightlife shit, I started meeting people that were on the show, like in the nightlife shit. And I was like, fuck the show. I was like, I'm gonna meet all these people here and be the man out here, you know? Like, so I was like, that's pennies now, you know? Like, so, but again, there was no, they're just, like I forgot what you were saying right now, but I just know.
How do we help someone that thinks that's the direction in life they should go to without having to go through the shit? Or do they have to go through the pain?
I think going through the pain is where the real teacher's at. You know what I'm saying? I think pain and suffering is the best teacher out there. So I don't want to tell people that, like, I don't want to say that you shouldn't go through what I went through. Fucking go through it. Figure it out. Figure it out the way that I did, you know, because I think at the end of the day, like, if I still thought the way that I did as a kid, I was always going to think like, damn, did I miss out on like partying, or did I miss out on this? And did I miss out on that? And like, I used to always say like in like even my early 20s, like, fuck it, if I fucking die, like I lived like the life of like 5,000 college fucking frat kids in like in a matter of 2 weeks, you know, like their whole span in college, you know, like I was all, fuck it, I lived a good fucking life. Like, but I thought that was a good fucking life at the time. You know what I'm saying? Now I'm like, nah, that shit was trash. You know, like I don't find any value in what I was doing back then. There was none.
Was there a pivotal moment, like a straw that broke the camel's back for you to be like, oh no, that's old me. This is now the system that I operate under?
Like while I was still in nightlife?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think when I lost my ex that I was with for a long time, she was so different. She was just like, had nothing, like she was completely opposite of the whole nightlife train. And she was like trying to help me see. She saw my potential and like I couldn't see it at the time. All that mattered to me was next level. What club, what person, what this, what celebrity. Like that's just kind of like what was on my mind the whole time. And then when she was gone, I was like, fuck. Like that was like the most real thing I had in my life for so long. And then I was just realizing every night that I was out that like none of this shit mattered. But even when we were together, I never cheated or, you know, any of those types of things on her. Because I always knew that like any of that temptation, if she was gone, it was always going to be there. So in my mind, most people like didn't believe me. They're like, there's no way you're not fucking all these girls. You're doing this and that. And I'm like, dude, those same fucking girls will be there if me and her break up in 2 fucking years. Like, why am I going to betray this person, you know? But that's how I was raised, you know? Majority of the fucking people in that industry are not like that, you know? So and that's why I got categorized in such a shitty situation of being like this fucking nightlife scumbag, and I was completely not that person. That's why when all this went down, everyone's like, oh, not Eli. Like, Eli was the good one, you know? Like, all of them were like, fuck. All right, we're shutting our asses up. Everyone was scared to get attacked at the time, you know? So like they were all the nightlife people were like, fuck that, we're not getting involved. And all these people got these skeletons hiding in their closet. They're too scared to speak up. I don't give a fuck what I don't give a fuck what I say. I didn't care then, and I really don't give a fuck now. I've had the worst shit said about me and I came out on top of it. So I'll continue being me. That's just what it's gonna be.
I really appreciate it. I love being able to connect with you. I will admit I've still got 2 chapters left, but I highly recommend that you get your copy of the book Mask, My Race Through the Belly of Hollywood to Self-Discovery. Dude, this is really good. I'd said this before. I think we said this before we hit record, but like this is really well written.
Yeah,
like,
I appreciate it, man.
No, like this is really well written.
Yeah.
I really enjoy how it's actually written, how it's put together, how the story, this is where the pictures are.
Yeah, now you gotta go backwards, Yeah, we talked about it in the...
Yeah.
Now it's coming to life for you because you're listening on Audible, right?
Yeah, dude. Oh, crap. Okay, cool. Okay. Where does someone go right now to be able to get their copy? Where do they go to learn more about you? How do they continue to keep up with what you're doing?
Amazon, it's on there. It hit bestseller on there, and it's going to continue to keep pushing it. You know, I'm in the talks with, or was in the talks with someone of doing like a docu-series or like reality type of thing on it. So we'll see where it goes. And just Instagram for now. That's where I'm at my name, Eli Wehbe.
Dude, I really appreciate
Yeah.
it. Thank you for coming into my life, dude.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Really
This is great.
appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, man.